Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to go through a server update and also some data mines which went along with it. Basically, there was a server update today and they added into the game the unscheduled battle rating changes, the decompression ones. Now remember, when it comes to these decompression changes, remember that if a vehicle goes up by 2 BR brackets, that is normal. That basically means that it hasn't really moved in BR. What you should really be focused on is the ones which have only moved up by 1 or haven't moved up at all. So that is something to at least have a look at. One of the other parts as well is there was some changes which have also been made. So for example, the J7E didn't end up going up. It has stayed at its original BR. So the J7D also stays at 11.0. And the F104Gs for France and Italy and also for Germany also stay at 11.0 instead of, well, they don't stay at 11.0, but they're going from 10.7 to 11.0 instead of 11.3, so they actually get buffed. And then also, of course, the F5E is not allowed to be balanced, so that one is now going to be 11.0 instead of 11.3. So pretty simple. The good old Tornado F3 as well is going to be 12.0 instead of 11.7. Same with the Tornado ADV. I'm guessing people are bombing too much in them, even though you can't in the F3. That was the excuse they used last time. The F1CT is going up to 12.0 instead of 12.3, so it isn't going up by a full BR bracket, even though it should. The F4EJ is also not going up by a full BR bracket. Instead, it's going to 12.3. The F16AJ is going to be 13.0 instead of 12.7, and the F16A for France is going to 13.3 instead of 13.0. So a lot of vehicles basically got helped here, and the major thing to look at though is the fact that a lot of vehicles from 10.0 upwards have been moved up. This means that 9.3 is going to be super strong again, and for some reason the 9.3 stuff hasn't been put into this. I'm really hoping that when it comes to that 9.3 area it gets expanded quickly, because otherwise there's going to be real problems for everything below it. Also, they have changed some of the standard weapon presets now, or the stock weapon presets. For Japan, the F15JM gets access to 2 AIM-120s, and then also the J11A gets the 2 RVVAEs instead of R77s, which is kind of interesting. And then also the Gripen C gets 2 RB74Ms and also the RB99s. So a few different changes there, which is quite nice. When it comes to the modifications for a lot of these vehicles as well, many of them have been removed since they get their missile stock now. So you'll actually get some SL back, you'll get some G back if you used it, and also the cost of research points has been compensated too. So overall, you know, you get a little bit more back. That's the thing that's quite nice about stuff like this. They do actually refund you on these things. The weird thing about it though, and this is something that I've obviously noticed over the time, and many other people have too. When they add modifications to vehicles, the same thing doesn't really happen. So when they remove stuff, they compensate people for what has already been spent. But when they add modifications, none of that stuff, like the extra modification research that you've got or accrued over the time of the vehicle, actually gets implemented. In order to implement it, you have to play a match in the vehicle. Now that might be by design to try and get you to play these things again, but when you have like 100 vehicles an update where they have added something very small to them, it can be kind of annoying. So it would be nice if they added, you know, something where it would research modifications without you having to play them if, you know, you already have the modification RP. But I'm guessing that's not going to change since it hasn't changed in many years. Also, at the same time, the J11A, so the domestic name for the R77 missile, has been replaced with the export one. So even though it says that the missile has changed, the RVVAE, it is still the same missile that you will be used to. It's just got a different name. I suppose it's kind of like the R73 and the R73E, same idea. There's also a naval change, surprisingly. A message about critical damage appearing in naval battles and in the battle result has been fixed. So there you go. No idea what was wrong with it, but I'm sure it was something that was quite egregious. And there was some data mines from Ishida which went along with these things too, and quite a lot of really cool information actually. Many of it is just kind of showing what was in the change logs, so we're not going to cover that stuff, but there is a few other things which are in, such as crew swapping code changes have been implemented, and also SP calculation code changes have been re-implemented too, so we'll have to see how that goes. They were reverted like an update before, and then also the code changes were partially reverted, but everything is back. So have a look for that in the future. Looks like they're going to be doing something to it. The other thing that they've also done in the most recent updates, which they didn't tell anybody about, you know those wing overload logic setups? So basically before, if you hit the maximum overload of a vehicle, it would just snap. Now what happens is it kind of bends over time and it takes more stress from, you know, what's going around. Well, they've actually tuned it down a bit. So even though it was quite a large buff, they've just reduced it slightly. So if you got used to your wings not falling off, now you just have to be a bit careful once again. Usually these types of decisions are in flux, which is why it's kind of hard to actually set it up. Like it's one of those things which is really annoying at the end of the day, because they just try and fine tune it a little bit. So seeing that it exists is great, but you're gonna have to wait like a week or two just to make sure that it's right, and that can be a bit of a turbulent time when it comes to War Thunder. They also added Austrian and Belgian voice lines, which is really cool. So we're gonna have to check those out, especially the Austrian ones. That's really nice. I feel like with the Dutchies, the Belgians, and also the Luxembourgians, it'll be really nice to hear all of their different things. There's also a very detailed look at all of the stock setups now on every vehicle. If you are interested in playing a specific vehicle, I would honestly recommend having a look either at the Datamine or at the BR Decompression sheet, because they're all there. So especially if you are one of the people who is grinding into that area of the game, it's incredibly important to have a look at these things. So it's just one of those things that turns up. They also changed the SK105A2 for Germany and France. The engine sound, instead of it being an AMX-30, is now a Chaffee's. So there you go, which I think is quite funny. We have a Chaffee engine sound on the SK105, so enjoy that as you wander around with it. Also, at the same time, with BR Decompression in for air, there's going to be some vehicles that really benefit and other vehicles that are going to have a pretty tough time. We'll have to see what goes on. There is also a few BR changes that they may have kind of forgotten, and that is in update 0.69. But it's just the J37C, the MiG-21 BIS Sweden, which they put up with all the other ones, the Mirage 2000 DR1, which actually went from 8.0 to 11.3 in ground, so I'm guessing somebody put in the wrong number. And then also the F-16A 15 ADF is now at 13.0 instead of 12, and the Nets is at 13.0 instead of 13.7. And that's basically all of the additional ones on top of what we've had. So I would like to hear your opinions on these BR changes. Obviously, we'll settle into them over the next period of time, but I personally think they're pretty good. I just, as I said, would prefer if there was just a little bit of a look at 9397, and then also at the same time, just a little bit of more kind of discussion around specific vehicles such as the F5. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.